Welcome back, everybody. This is part two of the Divine Brain with Miriam Delicado. Before we went on the break, Miriam was talking to us about the abilities that we have utilizing our divine brain. So, with that, let's welcome Miriam back into the conversation. Miriam, before we went on the break, you were talking to us about the importance of really utilizing all of the possibilities available to us and to transcend, it basically transcend not only what we've been taught, but what we've been doing. Is there anything more that you would like to add to that?
There is, there is so much that is possible through this understanding, this basic understanding, that we can be doing. And again, I just would like to say that in no way, shape, or form, because I know and I have this understanding and knowledge, does it make it easy to work with. It's actually very challenging to, and it takes great dedication to be able to work with this knowledge and be able to open up new pathways, for example. It can be very challenging in different ways. I've been struggling myself with my whole life with certain aspects of my personality, let's say, that other people maybe don't understand, or you know, we're all different people. The tone that people use when they speak to each other, for example, I've had to work on that, because I might say something to someone that to me sounds as though it's just me having a conversation, but it might be offensive to another person. Yeah. These are pathways in the brain that tell us that's how we're supposed to communicate. So even the basic pathways that we have sometimes need to be revamped, and those are our challenges in life. Now, to talk about these pathways, and one of the ways that we can open them up is through meditation, through the prayer, through using sound tones, through using the correct languages, and even in our daily language. Even if a language is created, the word fear, remove it. You know, I was using I was saying something repetitively yesterday to someone. I was very upset, and they told me, they said, "Miriam, you need to stop right now. You are not doing that. Don't do that." And it kind of, okay, thank you, snapped me out of that. Snap me out of saying that repetitive, self-destructive patterning. When we talked last week, we were talking about there's three aspects of ourselves. One that says that, oh, you're perfect. Everyone else is not right. You're the one that's right. You're the one that's perfect. You know everything. There's that aspect we have in ourselves. And there's the other one that says, you know what? You don't know anything. You're stupid. You're dumb. You don't have anything. Who do you think you are? What's going on? And then there's the one in the middle that says, you know, you could improve a little bit here. And you're a great person, and you're just really moving forward in a positive way. And that balance between everything, that's who you are. That's where you work from in the divine brain as well, to be able to put that information out there. You know, even it's all interconnected, because the brain itself will send a message. The tones that we use, for example, in the ancient cultures that are out there, they also do a lot of different dances, for example, or you know, hand movements, and they'll hold their hands certain ways, and they'll do different things, and all of these things also can activate the brain to be able to utilize, as one person was asking, the left and right hand portions of the brain itself, to be able to get them to communicate. Do they have to physically grow back together again? No. Do they communicate with each other? All the time. So trying to think about getting the brain to rejoin, I mean, leave that aside. We don't need to think about that. We need to think about the activation of the entire brain, so that it's in balance with each other. This takes us into a question that a lot of people have asked me about in respect to, quote, what is now in today's world being called plant medicines.
Yeah.
Plant medicines are things that people have talked about, like peyote, ayahuasca, marijuana, different aspects of plants that when we ingest them in different ways, that we have what many people see as spiritual experiences. This is also, there's a very dark and negative side to all of this, because any one of these things, just because it says, I personally have never done I've never done ayahuasca, so I can't talk about that experience. But ayahuasca, as an example, I know is an extremely powerful spiritual plant medicine that can activate a spiritual aspect of the human being that can become a permanent aspect. Mm-hmm. The reason why it is exceptionally important to have the proper people take you through these ceremonies, to not abuse it and be taking it every single weekend, because otherwise it becomes like every other drug, literal drug, like, you know, shooting heroin and doing cocaine or something along these lines. These are not drugs. These are drugs. These are things that are not in the best interest of your divine brain.
They're not medicine.
They are not medicine. But even ayahuasca, as an example, is not a divine plant if it is not being used in the right way.
Absolutely.
And it can be very, very dangerous. If you have not been prepared properly, here's one of the things that happened. And this was talked, these beings, these tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings talked to me about this also. They said that all the things that I'm talking to you about here have been talked about with these beings. Excuse me. All of these things have been talked about with these beings. Now, when this gets really big, because it gets into how we're going to heal ourselves also. When we are ingesting a drug, let's just say it's a drug of any kind whatsoever, whether it is a pain medicine like Advil, or something to do with or something like Tylenol or codeine or morphine or any of those kind of prescription medications that are available out there. They work they work within the brain itself to stop patterning of brain pain centers within the brain itself. That's one of the things that it does. We'll get back to that in a moment and tie it in with the plant medicines. The plant medicines also go into the brain and work through the brain. One of the things that happens when you take things, plant medicines, or primarily, is that it goes into a portion of the brain and it literally fires the brain really quickly. It fires it. It's like taking, starting a car when the engine's died and you need to charge the battery. So someone comes to jump start the battery. It's like you've just taken the clamps and put it on your brain, and all of a sudden, whoosh, the energy goes out from the center of your brain really fast, really hard. And then what happens is new pathways are pushed through and they're opened up. This allows us to see into the other worlds, into the unseen worlds, and be able to enter into our own brain and roam around in there. Yeah. This is why some people will have these experiences and they'll see horrible nightmarish visions, because it's within their own mind. Mm-hmm. That they're traveling. They're traveling within where they find this information and what they find. The danger in any of these experiences, especially when you're talking about things like hallucinogenic drugs, such as, I don't even know if today they still call it like acid, you know?
Yeah. LSD, acid, DMT,
LSD, ecstasy, all of those. What happens is there is a danger that the right combination of things will fire the brain to the point where instead of having that one access that's been opened and you've gone to explore it, and then you can access it later if you want to, maybe, and then when you're done, it'll close back down. There's a danger that it will remain open. This is why many people who do drugs become psychotic, for example. Now, is this a scientific proven fact? No. Do I have any scientific basis on this? Absolutely not. What I'm sharing with you is what these tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings explained to me about the brain. That all of these things have this danger of opening up brain patterns that then become stuck, and then you can't close them. It's like a constant firing.
Yep.
So mind-altering drugs, whether they are plant medicines or whether they are what we would consider recreational, or whether we consider them to be something that we got from our doctors, all have the ability to destroy pathways in our brain or to create pathways in our brain that never stop either firing or never stop. They don't close back down again. But with all of this knowledge, what this gives us is an understanding of what is possible through the activation in our meditations, and also talking about healing the mind, using the mind to heal our physical bodies. So
Absolutely.
when we, one moment please. Okay, sorry, I just got a message on that was important.
Okay. You know,
Sorry.
If I can just jump in so quickly and share something kind of cute, an anecdote. I went through my shamanic phase, and I did do the vision quest in my 20s with guidance. I did end up doing it by myself with another person without my teacher, but one of the things that I was taught was to be very careful. I mean, it was done step by step by step by step. My vision quest was very sterile and very prearranged, so to speak. However, one of the words that kept coming back to me was that he said to me, "Be careful for cosmic whiplash." And I love that term, cosmic whiplash, because if you don't know your way back, you will have created a monster, is what he said.
Extremely well said. Extremely well said. That's exactly what it is. And, we have to be careful of all of this. I remember probably about 15 years ago, maybe. I don't know. It was close to then. It was well over 10 years ago, 12 to 15 years ago. I remember someone who was a drug addict. It was a family, I didn't know the person directly, but it was a family member of a friend of mine. And they were saying back then, this is before I even knew what ayahuasca was, they were saying, oh, well, there's this plant that you can take, and we're thinking about sending her to Peru or somewhere like this to have this experience with this plant. Because people are completely and utterly changed after taking it just once. And in saying that, I want to share a story about a friend of mine who did ayahuasca. I was sitting in the airport in Vancouver, and I was on my way to, I don't know where. I was traveling somewhere. And I had a couple hours in the airport, and she said, "Can I come and see you?" And I said, "Yeah." She walked in, she sat down, she just looked at me, and I looked at her and I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I said to her, "You are a completely different person." And she looked at me and she said, "Miriam, of all the people in my life, I knew that you would see that. Because I am." I said, "What did you do? It's like your energy, everything about you is just totally different." And it was so calm. It was so calm. And that's when she told me that she had done ayahuasca. And it changed her life. The thing is that people get, not her, but they start to abuse it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes the same as everything else. It means nothing. It doesn't go anywhere. I would never be interested in hearing about any of their vision quests that they've been on. I'm not interested.
Right.
Because then it's a drug. What are you doing in this physical world? This is where you live. This is where you are. How are you utilizing the information of the divine brain to make a better life here for yourself, for others, for the planet, for the life that is here? And that is the point of connecting in with the divine brain. So for myself, I had 3 car accidents within a very short period of time. The second car accident was so devastating to me that I'm still suffering from it. Now, I was supposed to be a cripple for the rest of my life. That's what they eventually told me. You're never going to be able to function properly. You're going to be on pain medication every single day for the rest of your life. People do not recover from this problem.
Right.
And it was so severe that I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk. I couldn't eat. I could not eat anything other than really soft food for probably almost 2 years. I couldn't eat it.
Oh my.
Because I couldn't chew on anything. Nothing. Even chewing gum, for example, was so painful that I just wanted to die. It was so painful. Just to try and chew on a piece of gum. It was very severe. Sorry, I kind of go back into that for a second when I talk about it, because it's still amazing what I was able to do. And the doctors were shocked as well, and they still are. This problem that is still present a little bit, it's very much part of my life, is a problem with the nerve. Now, what are nerves? Nerves are all over on our entire body, and nerves are something that gives messages from all over your body to your brain, so that the brain can, for example, create the right chemical that you need. That's what the brain function does too. It creates our chemicals. So if you're having a problem with obesity, you need to go into your brain and talk to your brain and tell it to start to, process the food and not make you hungry and you feel satisfied, all of those kinds of things. There's all these practical applications of tapping into this information. So I was in absolute agony with pain. And it's indescribable, the amount of pain that I was in. Indescribable, indescribable, indescribable. And I know that people get upset with me, but I'm going to say it anyway. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And the pain was so bad, I think it was 3 times I had to go to the hospital. Because I get this one kind of pain where if it were to continue, it would cut off my breathing. I wouldn't, wow. I'd die. I call it the bad pain. The bad pain came 3 times, and I had to go to the hospital and get shots of Demerol because it needed to calm everything down. It wasn't trying to deal with everything else wasn't going to do. It was not going to do anything. Mm-hmm. I got the Demerol. It calmed my body, my senses down. It kind of numbed my nerves, and it allowed me to be able to just take care of myself at that point, and do what I needed to do, which was just to rest, just lay down, not move, and let everything calm down. That's it. So there are, quote, medications out there that in the pharmaceutical world that can be helpful to us. And I always advocate that we are looking for a balance in all things, and there is good and bad in absolutely everything. After a long period of time, almost a year and a half, I ended up being given a pharmaceutical drug that helped me take away a lot of this nerve pain. Now, instead of being an addict I would call it an addict to this drug for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I used this medication this way. This is going back to the divine brain. I had been using all of this energy and power that I knew how to utilize to hold back the pain as much as I possibly could, to make it so that instead of being on morphine patches every day, that I was only taking lesser medications, much lesser medications, to hold back the pain, okay? But once I had the nerve, and I remember going to physiotherapy, and this is where the brain comes back. This really needs clarity so that people can understand how they can utilize this themselves. I would go and I would take the medication to help to hold back all of the pain. Then I would go and exercise or move my body or go to physiotherapy or go outside for a walk or do whatever it was that was really challenging for me to do, almost impossible for me to do if I wasn't medicated. Now, then what I would do is I would allow this medication to do its work for the pain, and I would use my brain to start to repattern again. So I remember being on the treadmill, and I was walking so slow that it would be like step, step, step. That's how slow I started, because I couldn't walk. It was so painful. But what I did was I told them, I said, and I'm sure they thought I was nuts, and I really didn't care. I said, listen, when you're looking at me, I would sit there and I would put a huge grin on my face like this. And I would imagine, I'd close my eyes and I'd walk, and I would imagine myself laughing. I imagined myself running. I have this really beautiful friend of mine who is like a sister to me. And I always imagined us being in the park, swinging on the school kids, the swings, and laughing, going down a river in a canoe, doing different things that brought laughter and movement to my physical body, in my vision. And how this worked is that literally, what was I doing? I was repatterning my brain. Because my brain up until this point was only sending pain messages. And now, instead of me using all of my energy to hold back the pain, now I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this medication. I'm going to let it do the work of holding back some of this pain. Some. And now I can use the rest of my brain energy to focus on repatterning. So even now, when I go and I'm doing exercises, or I go to Rolfing to get my muscles moving properly. This Rolfer saved my life. And when I first started going to him, it's a very deep tissue massage. Very painful, but very, 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 very powerful. Saved my life after being dormant for so long. If you're dormant, you need to go to a Rolfer and just take the pain. Because eventually it will take away all of your pain. You won't be in pain anymore. So what I would do with the Rolfer and with the massage therapist, with the physical therapist, with myself, with everything that I did, I would say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this, and now I'm going to repattern my brain. So my Rolfer just worked on me last week. He's working on me, and I said, okay, can you now do this? And I tell him what to do. And I said, do this, And I said, I'm going to repattern my brain now, okay? And he's like, okay. He's so used to me now. He's like, okay. Because then what I do is, if my energy's been stuck in one place, in one particular area, and he's got that area moving with the energy, then I get him to stimulate the skin, because the skin has all of the nerve endings on it, yeah. And it's moving the energy around, just by doing that. Just by doing this to your body, By stimulating this, it sends messages to your brain that will then stimulate things. And if you do that, it's like tapping.
Yeah.
I'm giving people so much for them to research on. Tapping works on this as well. All of these methods have to do with connecting with the brain and with the nerves and with the patterning that we have. And that what we're doing is we have to get out of the pattern in the brain itself in order to heal anything. Anything. So I go in and I get him to do this. So if he's working on my back, I'll get him to do this really lightly all over my back, up and down, stimulating all of the nerves. And while he's doing that, I close my eyes and I see only energy in absolute, I see only energy balls of light, golden light, or white light. I only work with those two colors. Other people work with others, that's fine. And I imagine that the energy is all in balance. Nothing's stuck anywhere. And if I see something when I close my mind's eye that's dark or that's too heavy, I go in and I smile and I break it up in my mind. And then what maybe I'll do is close my eyes and imagine myself running, laughing, playing, jumping, doing all of those things, and it repatterns the brain because it is a scientific fact. It is a scientific fact that in order to be, that the body itself will have the same benefit when you visualize as it does you physically doing it. So this is how you can understanding how all of the brain works with the center and the energy flow and the blood flow and the tones and the mantras, and then understanding that each one of those pathways can be potentially opened or closed. For me, I had to close one. I had to close one because it was a refiring of a specific center in the brain, a very specific point where the pain came from, okay, which for me is right here, okay, and it travels up and it goes into my brain, right? And I would see that, and it would be, when I first started doing this, I'd say, why am I in, what is this pain? And all I saw was like a tube of light.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. So what I did was I started to shrink it, and I just kept doing that. And it took me years. And then with all of these different aspects of understanding how the brain works, if you want to know about pain, you learn about the brain. If you want to know how to overcome, you learn about the brain. This is why, for example, people travel to sacred places for periods of time. This is my interpretation. Mm-hmm. For periods of time in order to heal their bodies of everything from cancer, tumors. Miracles happen where, you know, overnight things will disappear from people's bodies. You know, this is how we do it, is through the divine brain. And we can help each other to do this. What Reiki masters do, for example, when they share their energy with you, is they're sharing some of that, those bubbles of energy that can physically travel into our bodies and back up to our brains, back up to the energy center of who and what we are. That's what the chakras are. When people talk about the chakras, they're energy points. But if you limit yourself to those energy points, you're limiting yourself in your own perception. You can work with those, and I do work with my different chakras as well. But do not limit yourself to them, because if you do, then you are not connecting in with your full potential.
Absolutely, and the brain has to be a part of that connection with the chakras. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I have to share something with you because you had mentioned about Reiki, and I am a Reiki master, and I just wanted to share this wonderful experience that I had because it's amazing how when we are doing the work, when we're doing the healing, how it can affect on every level. And it just goes to show you the transcendence from physical to emotional to spiritual. I had a woman once that literally started breaking down crying. And I was asking her what's going on. And this is someone who, I guess you could call an A personality, a type A personality, very, together. And she started bawling and crying uncontrollably. And I asked her what was going on. She said she was going through a divorce, or that she was getting ready to go through a divorce, and she knew it was time to ask for it. And I was just very astounded because she had gone in there for a headache, is the point I'm trying to make. So it's amazing, we're talking about the divine brain. The divine brain is not only the physical, it is the emotional, and it is also the spiritual.
Yes. It's all of those things connected together, absolutely. I've had, I always, I want people to know that, everyone is human. It doesn't matter what your perception of them is. We are all human beings. And no matter how much of a master one appears to be, and I'm not saying I'm a master or anything, I'm talking about, master gurus and from India or from the Buddhist culture or from, from traditional people around the world that are, really masters of their own ceremonies, for example. We're still human beings, and we still face all of the same challenges that everybody else does. We have these beautiful experiences, maybe as a result of some of the understandings that we have, but we still have to work at it, and that's what we've chosen to do. We've chosen to work towards bettering ourselves as that individual and human being, and by doing so, it sort of spreads out to everyone else. It's interesting because talking about the divine brain and it being connected to the emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, everything is really very, very, very true. I had an experience probably just a little over a year ago that was very negative, and I'm not going to talk about that, but it was a very negative experience, and it's still affecting me. It's still painful for me. Mm-hmm. And I was speaking to a very dear friend of mine just a couple of days ago, and they said some things that made me aware that this experience, this negative experience that I had, is affecting me today. And that I need to really look at it. And he said, you need to go down the rabbit hole on this one. You need to go down the rabbit hole on this one. Because the only way to let go of these things is to really look at them. And this is another aspect of the brain that we're talking about. Where do we want to look within our memory centers? When we don't want to look at something, we just block it out. What we are talking about is opening up and reawakening your mind so that you can connect into places that either you've forgotten about, you suppressed, you tried to push under the rug, that are still, because this connection is here, it's creating another connection on top of it that is negative. In order for you to get rid of this, you have to look at it and you have to file it in the correct place. Because this is not filed in the correct place. That's where I'm at with something. I need to refile it in the correct place. Because otherwise we build and we build and we build on these pathways that are not positive. This is why if one thing goes wrong, it's really important to look at it, even if we are wrong. And we are always partially, we are always, no matter what the situation, we are always partially responsible because we are participants in it. Whether we did something right or wrong is irrelevant. We are participants in it.
Absolutely.
How we choose to move forward has to do with connecting in with the brain itself of what it is that we are and how we're utilizing the pathways of the brain.
Miriam, if I can just jump in, because you really brought up a very important point just now about us being partially a part of the problem when we're upset about something. One of the points that I want to just bring up right now is that, we have the ability to really listen to our bodies and listen to what our brain and our body is telling us. And if we are
Yeah.
feeling, let's say a good example, an easy one that everyone's used to, uh, getting cut off in traffic. I talk about it all the time because I used to be one of those crazy drivers. And I thank God I live in a place with no traffic now. However, I had to look at myself and say, well, why is this upsetting me? And what can I do about it? And I feel that many times people can get into, let's say, an argument with a friend or their lover or their husband or wife or whatever, their children, and we're feeling bad about it. I think that is I know that is our divine brain letting us know there's something that we need to work through. And instead
Mhm.
of blaming the other person, we have to take responsibility to work through that and what is our issue? Because there's definitely an issue being brought up.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. It's like saying when we're talking about the repetitiveness that we have in our minds and we hear those voices in our head, we have to we have a choice. Um, One of the things that even now that I do, I just did it today. I said, okay, let me stop and rephrase that. I said,
Yeah.
let me stop and rephrase it. Um, we have this repetitive brain language that we use, for example, with ourselves, with that internal chatter that we hear, and whether the voices are from within us or exterior to us. We need to change what it is, either how we react and what we say. Trust me, I am not always easy to deal with, and anybody that knows me knows that I am not always easy to be around. Um, but through that, constantly trying to make myself aware of the fact that we have to change the patterning of our choice of words, our actions, our own emotions, for example. And what we can do, I want to share this as well about the car accident. The second car accident that I was in caused me to have post-traumatic stress. Anyone who is aware of this knows how serious post-traumatic stress actually is. A lot of war veterans come back with post-traumatic stress. It is a very dangerous thing. It is something that I had no skill. Out of everything I've ever experienced in my entire life, all the good, the bad, the very deep and dark ugly, I never had any skill to get over that one. That one just about removed me from this path, because it went into a portion of the brain that is only concerned about your safety, for example. It is only about survival, and there is no reasoning, there is no logic, there is only survival. But the way that post-traumatic stress works is that it becomes part of the repetitive brain and the internal dialogue of the repetitive brain, and it becomes what it is that we externalize through the repetitive uh, internal voice. Okay, so when we speak, we have to stop. We have to stop using that language or those responses. Now, I still have I still have a problem being in a car, a bus, a vehicle of any kind whatsoever on the road. I still have panics, and I've learned techniques to overcome that. One of the things that I do, I just did it a couple days ago when I was in my very old blue car driving down the road, was I saw something that made me nervous. It doesn't matter what, it just made me nervous. It's part of the post-traumatic stress. I was driving past the very spot that had the car accident, and something triggered me there. So I actually physically said out loud, "Oh, today's going to be a beautiful day." And I turned the radio on, and then I looked around and I read out loud the signs on the road. It said Greyhound, Esso, gas station, stop sign. I physically was saying things out loud. And what was this purpose? It was to reprogram the brain, stop it from going into that direction and reprogram it, you see? So we can reprogram our brains for just about anything. We just have to be determined in order to do it. I'm still working on certain reprogramming parts of my brain. I wish it would just snap into place. I'm sure we all have those.
It's still going on for me, that's for sure. And it's a struggle. It is a struggle. We all have our shortcomings when it comes to our reaction, and I feel that's a very important thing when it comes to reprogramming is the way that we react. Many of us, like you said, post-traumatic stress syndrome is about reaction to a stimulus.
Yes. Right.
And for me, I mean, I had a crazy childhood or a crazy youth, and there are a lot of things that still I can see something or behavior within myself or somebody else that will make me react, like you said, in that way where it's the survival mode, so to speak,
Right.
and it creates anxiety or panic or whatnot. We're down to the last 15 minutes already. I can't believe how quickly this has gone by. And I'm wondering, Miriam, can you take us to the next level right now and talk to us a little bit about how our brain adjusts to our new abilities that we're getting. Many of us are starting to become very psychic, very intuitive. Many
Yes.
of us are starting to see through the veil, seeing other worlds. We're experiencing noises. What do they call it? Ascension syndrome, for lack of a
Sure.
better term. And, a lot of people think they're going crazy, and you're not. We're not going crazy. We're just developing a new way of living within our physical body. And I know one of the things you want to talk about was the ringing in our ear, which is really annoying sometimes. So maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay, this is great because this will bring us back to sort of the aspects of the spiritual again. The divine brain has the ability to tap into all of these different pathways. Okay. Well, going back to the basics where we started the program, at the very center of the brain is this small light, and you just have to imagine that. When we fire it up is normally doing, one of the ways that we consciously fire up the brain is during a meditation, for example. People just may not realize that it's that center of the brain that they're tapping into. One of the things that happens is it's able to send messages to the physical body here where we currently reside, and it needs to send those messages. The reason out into the ethers, into the unseen worlds, okay? When I talked about traveling through the earth to these people, on the other side of the world, and coming up in this meditation, and them physically getting these messages that I gave to them, word for word, by the way, word for word. I am in North America, and that's what they were told. She is in North America. Is because this aspect of the divine brain has energy in it, okay? It's energy. Just think that the divine brain has this electrical charge that's going on all the time, sending messages to different parts of your brain, that then sends it through the brainstem into your physical body, and then it sends it out into the earth, into the atmosphere, into everyone that's around you. This is how, if I sit in a room, when I sit in a room, if I'm in a bad mood and all I do is sit there with a smile on my face and I just think terrible thoughts, people are going to pick up on it. Why? Because you're sending it out there, okay? What has happened to us and in this transitional time that we're in, and no, December 21st was not it. We have been in it. We are still in it, and we are going to continue to be in it. One of the things that happened is that solar flares have increased on the planet. And again, the tall blondes talked to me about this. They said as the solar flares continue to build upon the planet and come down, it is almost like an electrical charge to the physical body. The physical body is electrically charged in part through the brain in that tiny little center being fired, and then it goes out and activates the different aspects of the brain itself, which in turn allows us to activate and connect in with the unseen worlds in our dream time, having visions, having premonitions, having more synchronicities, having more all of a sudden inspirational knowledge that we all of a sudden start making connections with things. Our physical bodies are changing as a result of it because the messages that are coming in through the brain are changing the physical body. For example, some people have said that we're starting to look younger than we actually are. This is an aspect of more of the brain, the divine brain that we're talking about, being able to tap into the other energies, into the other realms. So the solar flares are one of the things that are doing it. Our position within within the universe, within the galaxy, is also having a part with this, because energy that has been floating around is now coming towards and touching the Earth as well. On a larger scale, how this is being affected is with some of the earthquakes and the volcanoes and the storms that we're having. Yeah. Part of the reason for this is because of the different, quote, energies that we as human beings are not fully conscious of at all times, or even not conscious of at all. And we may not have that full understanding of the energies that are exterior, or what we perceive, not that are, but what we perceive as being exterior to us, having an effect on our divine brain, on our physical bodies, on our physical selves, that then translate into us being able to open up to the other dimensions. Ascension is, we are not here to become, quote, ascended beings. I don't agree with that statement. Mm-hmm. We are not here to become light-bodied. I don't agree with that statement. I don't agree that we're going to wake up one day and we're all going to be these masters. I do not agree with those statements. These are ridiculous. We as human beings are on an evolutionary process of being able to calmly, slowly integrate the two different worlds. What we perceive as being two different worlds, the spirit world and the physical world. There's many more in between and all around and interconnected. But for simplicity's sake, these two worlds, the spiritual world of the unseen and the physical world that we live in, are being able to blend together a little bit more because of us connecting in with the divine brain. Every single person on the planet is being affected by this, whether they want it or not. Mm-hmm. Because of the energies of the solar flares, because of the different storms we've had, because of the earth energy that's being released through these earthquakes and the volcanoes and even the tsunamis, through all of that, there's an energy that gets shared back with us. It is exceptionally important that throughout this process, one of the things we remember to do, even for myself, I've done it the last couple of days in my chaos that I've been in, is to say, Miriam, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it move. Do not try to hold these energies. Because by holding any energy, whether it's good or bad, we can create a pathway that doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. And then we become disillusioned, for example, when these energy pathways from the plant medicines are opened up, or a drug that you've taken, like PCP or something crazy like that, and it gets stuck there. It remains open, and you're done. You can't close it now. There's no way of going back in unless you had the technical knowledge and the spiritual strength to be able to close it. So all of these things, being able to heal ourselves, being able to and what happens in this process is that what we hear when we talk about hearing voices, I hear my guides speak to me. How do I know that I'm not schizophrenic? Well, I know. Schizophrenia is very different from hearing a guide or yourself speak to yourself.
Absolutely. Do
Or
you
an
know?
angel.
Can you share the definition of schizophrenia, or do you know a popular one? Because I have a very good one.
No, please go ahead.
Um, I've done my stints in rehab in my youth, okay? I'm going to come right out and say it. And when I was in rehab, we had a schizophrenic. Let me put my face on the camera here. Now, it's been 20 years since I've been to rehab. However, I will say that what the doctors explained to me, because, when you're young, I'm from Miami in the 80s. We did a lot of stuff we shouldn't have done. And I wondered, I was like, am I schizophrenic? They're like, no, 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 no. You're going through detox. And what the answer of schizophrenia is that a schizophrenic cannot differentiate dream time from real time. In other words, they're still dreaming when they're awake. So they are literally living in a dream while they're in waking consciousness. There is no differentiation. So that was the definition that I was given. And I really wanted to share that with everybody because I think it's important.
Well, see, and the hearing of voices, I've had a lot of people contacting me in the last like 6 months or so saying, "Oh my God, I'm seeing spirits. They wake up and there's a being sitting at the end of their bed. They're seeing apparitions out of the corner of their eye. Things are moving in their houses. They're hearing voices speak to them, all of these things. Because literally what is happening is, for the planet itself as a whole, is that we have bumped up our brain function, our divine brain function.
Yeah.
So we're tapping into things. There are ways of being able to control your physical experience with the divine brain and with the divine world. There are ways of controlling it so that it is not disturbing to you, so that, for example, a lot of people don't sleep because different things are happening. Well, you have to tell your guides, leave me tonight, I need to rest, my physical body is tired, do not come and teach me in my dream time, for example.
Right, exactly.
Verbalize. Remember that verbalizing is what you need to do. If you don't want an experience or you want to be taught about a particular experience, we need to start there, think about it, open the pathway or close a pathway. Remember that. That's what we're doing. We're either opening a pathway or closing a pathway. And some of these repetitive pathways that are not in our best interest, that even I am working on, then what we do is we need to go down the rabbit hole, look at it, and then file it where it needs to go. And then we can let it go. Then it doesn't become the platform upon which we're building. So these are important things to talk about. And I think that we could even do another program on how now, after all of these last two shows that we did, on the divine brain, and what was the name of the other program prior?
Our internal dialogue.
Internal dialogue, the divine brain, and then how do we use all of this information to now strengthen our spiritual experience and to control the level of our experience. I think that's another program.
Yeah,
and
it definitely is. How we're being asked for an encore. I love it. Thank you, everyone. They're like, please keep going, keep going. So, can we go another 5 minutes? Because I have some more symptoms that I would like to ask you about, if that's okay with you.
No, that would be fine. Before we continue, I would like to share something with everyone that is very important for the continuation of programming like this. Bernard Alvarez at GIC, Global Illumination Council. You can find links on any of the videos that you find here. Down below, you'll find links to Global Illumination Council. and also to bluestarprophecy.com. Is it GIC.com as well, Bernard? Yes, GIC.com and bluestarprophecy.com, and make a donation of any size to be able to support the work that's being done for free, the programming, the effort, the time it takes to put this programming out. It is only through the generosity of others that we are able to share and to talk and to bring this programming forward. Without your donations, it is simply not possible for us to be able to do this work. And we are here as a collective. We are very grateful. Both Bernard and myself live very simply in order to give as much as possible to the people that we have within this community. And so even $1 will make a difference towards being able to pay the rent, have heat in our homes, and put food on our tables, as well as bring this amazing programming. So globalillumination.com, bluestarprophecy.com. We love you and thank you and honor you for your generosity and help in having us here today. So in saying that, Bernard, I am actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pass it on to you for a moment, and I'm going to run away. I'm going to be right back in about 45 seconds.
Okay,
all right?
No problem. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I just want to let everybody know, I am going to be making a very big announcement about the Global Illumination Council in just a few minutes after the program. But in the meantime, there is a link. You can click right on this player. If you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link in the description to help us out. But anyway, back to the spiritual symptoms that we're going through. And someone had mentioned something about sleep. And actually, Miriam did talk about it. I'm one of those people that have a very difficult time sleeping. And when I'm sleeping, it feels like I am working my butt off. I'm going into different worlds. I have found myself in literally like classroom surroundings. One of my recent excursions was to, it seemed like an outdoor temple where there were these Buddhist monks, or monks, it seemed like, that were teaching us. And there were thousands of us lined up on these beautiful rugs. And we're just sitting on the rugs, sitting cross-legged, and they're teaching us. And it was just an amazing experience. I saw some friends there, some family members. But at the same time, when I wake up, I'm exhausted. And it's like I haven't gotten any sleep, and I've been noticing, and I wonder if anyone else is going through this, is I'm sleeping a little longer lately. I find myself sleeping in an extra hour. And normally this time of year I'm sleeping less because I'm preparing for the time change. But right now I'm not getting that really heavy-duty REM sleep until daylight, which is very strange for me. Now, other people might have the opposite reaction. I know some people that can only sleep during the day and they get energized at night. And what I can say to that is, you know, this is your ascension process. You've got to deal with it the best that you can. And just listen to your body. I talk about this all the time. Listen to your body and acknowledge what your body is telling you and respect that.
It's really important for people to understand that, and I've said this, you know, this is a repetitive theme that that's being brought forward by myself, is that we must use caution to not follow any one person, group, belief, even almost fully and so strictly that we cut ourselves off from everything else. Because the divine world is not limited. The divine world doesn't say, okay, well, there's the line, you can't go any further. No, the divine world says, if you choose to have this experience, then we will, you know, the door is open. Here you are, enter. So the divine world is very much non-limiting in the way that it presents itself. It is only our own limitations that says, no, you're not going to go any further. This ties in to the brain patterning that we have and how we utilize that in order to become better people, in order to become, and what do I mean by better people? I mean, you know, I'm not the calmest person out there. I'm not a calm person. People might believe that I am, but in reality, I can get fired up pretty easily. And so there's aspects of ourselves that we need to bring into balance with everything and everyone that is around us. When I was 18, I believe I was 18 years old. I talk about this in my book, Blue Star, Fulfilling Prophecy, where I said that, which is available on my website, by the way. What I talked about during when I was about, I think it was about 17, 18, somewhere in there. And I had this experience where I looked into this man's eyes and I just told him everything that you could possibly imagine about his life in great detail. People said to me, how did you do that? How do you do that? And I don't do that with people now. I don't look in their eyes and see personal things. I don't play that game because I believe that those gifts have a higher purpose than to tell someone their future, because the future is always changing all the time anyway. But through this process, the divine brain, what we need to do is silence it. We're talking a lot about how to activate and how to do this in this community, but we're not talking about what we're really looking for. What we're really looking for is the ability to silence the brain at the same time as activating it. And how do we find the balance between those two things? Because the silence, it is in the silence that you allow not just the energy to go out, okay? It is the silence that allows the energy to come in. When we can quiet ourselves is when we can hear our divine guidance, whether that is from a personal divine guidance within our being, or whether that is what we perceive as being as something or someone outside of ourselves speaking to us, whether that is God, the source, ETs,
whatever it may be, a transdimensional entity or something.
A transdimensional being of some kind. So we have to learn how to open this up so that we can move, so that we can travel into the other worlds, yes, and into aspects of ourselves and our brains and our inner selves. And we have to learn how to open those up to be able to, put everything in its rightful place. We also need to be able to stop everything, have the light, and allow something to enter. And, then that gets into the thing of, well, shouldn't you be protecting yourself? What are you doing? Listen, this is an educational process. We can't educate you on everything in a program of 2 hours. There are aspects of this process that many people are sharing. But we must use caution not to follow any one aspect because, as you just said, some people sleep better at night. Some people sleep better during the day. Funny little story about me is that I eat so much food that it's a joke to people. And I'm not that big. And that's always what people say. How can you eat all that food and be the size that you are? I don't understand. And for me, I eat at night. Once 5 or 6 o'clock hits, man, stay at, you'd have to chain the fridge to be closed. Because for me, I eat at night. Last night at midnight, I cooked myself a whole plate of food to eat before I went to sleep. And I will often do that.
Yeah.
So we have to understand that your physical body and your brain are not hardwired the same as everyone else as in that identical patterning. Remember, we come with a template that is how to move our arms and legs and what happens, what have you. the basics of being in a physical body. The templates that we end up having placed on us are our childhood, and then the templates that we end up placing on ourselves throughout our lives are what determine how our bodies react. When we're talking about trying to lose weight, I smoked for 20 years of my life.
Right.
In my younger days, yes. I'm 40. I'm going to be 47 coming up in a few days here.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. And I smoked for 20 years, so I haven't smoked for almost 20 years now, or maybe more. And no, I haven't. I have not smoked for 20 years. I started when I was 12, if you can believe that. It's kind of scary.
That's okay. I started when I was 9.
Oh, gosh. So when I quit smoking, what happened was, again, it was about the repetitive brain, right? I had to change that cycle of, and I would distract myself with other things. That's the repetitive brain kicking in. That's the addictions that we have.
Yeah.
When it comes to food, for example, or even for a healthy body, I quit smoking and I gained some weight. I wasn't big. I wasn't huge. Not by any means. Not by any means at all. But I knew that one day it would just sort of naturally start to come off. And what I did was I looked at myself and I imagined my brain. See, I saw my body with a certain weight, and I saw myself with a scale of where I was, and I saw it slowly lowering. And I saw my digestive system working really hard with the food and so forth. So these are all ways to heal ourselves.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's foolproof. It means that we have those abilities to be able to do it. It takes a lot of dedication to be able to use these abilities. Okay, going back to this, how we've talked a lot about the internalized brain, the center of it with the light that's present, being able to connect with the other light that's in the center of our chest, which holds us here and anchors us in the world. Understanding that this energy is what gets pushed out into the universe and gets moved out into the other realms. If I can speak to someone on the other side of the world in a meditation that I have never laid eyes on in my life, and they have such a clear message that within a couple of months of me saying I'm in North America and them receiving a message to I'm in North America, you need to find me immediately. This is exactly where I am. I told them exactly where I was. And you need to send someone immediately on the next plane. And then they got a call and said, okay, I'm getting on the next plane to come to North America. We have to understand that we are powerful in our thinking. And we have to remind ourselves of that. I have to remind myself of that.
Constantly.
That's what goes out. Coming in. We have the chatter of the televisions, of the computers, of the chit-chat, of the this, of the that. We have the internal dialogue. Remember the 3 aspects of the dialogue. We have you're so bad and awful, you're so good and perfect. We're looking for the middle, the balance between the two of them. That's the inner dialogue that we connect, that we allow to come into our divine brain to give us what we need to become stronger emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. We then can take all of this knowledge and say, okay, how do I connect in with the other realms with the understanding through my brain? Because the brain will process what your perception is, whether you have quote-unquote fear of it, whether you don't want it, whether you want more of it. Your brain processes all of that. So it is important that when something happens, take note. People say, how do you do all of these things? I mean, my sister, man, she's like, it's crazy. I think about my sister. I'm going to call my sister. She phones me. Boom. But we have worked on understanding that connection between the two of us. When she was in Germany a few years ago, I knew that something was wrong. I knew something was wrong, and it was. I even knew what country she was in, even though I had no contact with her for a month prior. I knew what country she was in Europe, because she was traveling all over. I knew she was in Germany. How does that happen? The divine brain, opening it up with all of this energy, allows for messages to come in. It's our jobs to recognize when we've received the message. And here's what we've been missing. It's the whisper. The whispers that you need to listen to. And then rationally go into that internal dialogue. Is this a rational voice or message that I've heard? If you're finding yourself out of nowhere, all of a sudden thinking about someone, get on the phone and call them.
Absolutely.
Get on the phone and call them. 2 days ago, I have not talked to this individual for just a little over a year. 2 days ago, I'm laying on my couch. I am watching a program on television, and something on that program reminded me of this person. And in my head, I heard, you must call, we'll say, I'll use my own name. You must call Miriam tomorrow. I was like, what? You must call Miriam tomorrow. But I noticed it. I listened.
Right.
I went, wow, that came from nowhere, man. Where did that come from? What is that? That is the divine brain allowing a message to come back in from the other worlds. So I said, okay, okay, okay. And then I stopped myself in the rest of my thinking, because this has to do with the brain. I stopped myself in the rest of my thinking. I looked, I closed my eyes for a second, and I thought, okay, I have to call Miriam tomorrow. And it was like, yes, I heard the internal dialogue. You have to do it tomorrow. I was like, and then I answered my internal dialogue. Okay, I'm going to do that tomorrow. Excuse me. Do you know what happened? In the morning, well, actually, before I went to sleep, I was like, okay, I'm going to call Miriam tomorrow. I'm using my own name just because I don't want to say the person's name.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to call Miriam tomorrow. I woke up first thing in the morning. You have to call Miriam today. Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to call Miriam. If I don't call, I'll send an email for sure. So then, what I did was I went onto my internet, on my email that morning, and what do you think I found? An email from this person that I have not talked to in just over a year. And they said, hi, Miriam, just wanted to say hello, give me a call, and with their home number and their cell number. That is the divine brain, but we have to make ourselves aware of it. When we hear the little inner dialogue, when we hear that inner dialogue that is whispering to us, or sometimes screaming from out of nowhere, that is divinity trying to speak to you. Follow it. Listen to it. And it will create miracles that will take place. Believe, believe, believe. We have one word that we come here that we really struggle with, and that is to believe what it is that is possible. We have to believe it. And how do we do that? What is the difference between denial and belief? It is the perception that we have within our brains. It is how we process our information that determines if we will accept or decline something, whether it is information, a physical aspect, whether it is something in our physical realms. We either accept it or decline it according to what happens in here. This is the divine brain. This is what we have to work on. Understand. And we have to trust it. Exactly. Exactly.
Miriam,
So it looks like... the longer we stay on here, it looks like we're having more viewers come.
I know, it's so funny, but unfortunately, I have an announcement scheduled at 3 minutes ago, and I must play this announcement. This is my divine brain telling me that I must do this. So I was wondering if there is one last thing you would like to share with everyone, or if you want to just hang out and deal with listen to me, enjoy the announcement that was scheduled.
Well, I think that I'm going to have to wrap it up because I have a lot of other work that needs to be looked after by the end of my
Yes,
day
I know.
today. I'd like to just say thank you to everyone for taking the a little over 2 hours that we've spent in talking about this. And I hope that there is some spark of information that we've shared today, Bernard and I, that gives you, the audience, someone in the audience, something to continue building upon. We do not have all of the answers in our lives. What we do have is the passion and the desire to continue learning. So understanding the inner dialogue and the divine brain gives us another platform to be able to research and delve into in our own personal Pandora's box within ourselves. And thank you to each and every one of you that supports GIC, Global Illumination, Bernard Alvarez, myself, and making a donation towards our work really allows for us to do it in a calm, peaceful place, knowing that we are cared for and respected and honored for our contributions with all of you. So have a beautiful day. Much love to everybody. And again, thank you to all of my friends and colleagues who have supported me throughout the years as well, and who helps me to reprogram my parts of the divine brain that I'm working on. So much love to you, and thank you so much to everyone. Thanks, Bernard.
Oh, thank you, Miriam. And just thank you to everyone who is watching. I just want to let you know that just shortly after this broadcast, we're going to save it, and I'll be back in about 30 seconds afterward. And we have a big announcement to make about the Global Illumination Council. It's something we've all been talking about. We know it's coming, so we're going to go ahead and share that with you tonight. You're going to get it before everybody else. So stick around for a few more minutes. We have a big announcement coming up, and we'll be right back. Thank you so much, Miriam. I am so honored to have you not only as my friend, my contemporary, and my colleague, but I'm so grateful that you're here on the planet and doing the work that you're doing. It's so important what you're doing, and I thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Well, I'm looking forward to this announcement myself. You got me curious.
All right, we'll be right back after this. After we get a moment to save this video, because we want to put it on YouTube. Hold on
Okay.
1 second, and we'll be right back.